Welcome to the Kidnapping Chronicles. I'm Susan Dunn-Cobb, bringing you the latest developments with the child trafficking criminal enterprise. At the moment, no child is safe. The good news is you and I are going to change that. Our top stories for this February month of 2022 begin with a story sent to me from Joyce Catalano and posted on her YouTube channel, Joyce the Voice, on February 20. A 4-pound premature baby born in Yale New Haven Hospital, New London, Connecticut, is not permitted any visitors, although he's doing well and ready to begin bottle feeding. His mother, Corey, and father, who is also named Corey, can't see him at all. His mother can't feed him, hold him, or bond with him these last 10 days since birth. What is the crime? Mother is unvaccinated and tested negative for COVID, but the father tested positive, then immediately retested, and it was negative. Because the mother has contact with the father, both cannot be near the baby. Baby Asa remains in solitary confinement due to present medical protocols, which apparently include medical kidnap. When we go to the hospital and give them our children, we believe that they are our children. Not when you sign in. This is not only happening right now with the pandemic, but also what's been happening for years before COVID and the forced vaccination controversy. Childbirth has always held the possibility of medical complications, but now it certainly seems going to the hospital to deliver adds new dangers for the whole family. Our next story comes to us from Catherine Wang Anderson, who has a Facebook group, Stolen, Sold, Slaughtered in Nebraska and every state in America. Details have been taken from theadvocate.com, February 22, 2022. In Livingston Parish, Louisiana, a former teacher, Cynthia Perkins, was sentenced to 41 years without parole for her part in a child sex crimes case. Her husband, Dennis Perkins, faces his trial beginning May 9th. He is a high-ranking member of the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office and the leader of SWAT team. The child victim was foster adopted by this couple, who took turns recording the assaults they made upon the unconscious child. Initially, this adoptive mother faced dozens upon dozens of charges, including rape, child pornography, and sexual battery of a child. Immediately before trial, she pled guilty to 1 count each of producing child pornography, second-degree rape, and mingling harmful substances. Under another part of the plea deal, Cynthia agreed to testify against her ex-husband when he faces a jury in May. We need to recognize that those paid to remove children can never be guaranteed to be safe individuals. Some encouraging news comes to report in the Melissa Deagle medical kidnapping case. One of her stolen daughters grew up, and it would appear she is becoming the fierce warrior her mother has always been. This first came to me from Michael Volpe, Substack.com, and more can be found on the Facebook group, A Miracle for Two Sisters. In Maricopa County, Arizona, on December 21, Kayla Deagle filed a lawsuit against the Arizona Department of Child Safety, the Maricopa County's DA's office, and Phoenix Children's Hospital, and more. The allegations contained within the filings are astounding and completely vindicate Kayla's mother, Melissa Deagle, and her powerful stand on her children's behalf. You will want to read the details of the torture and manipulations by the Department of Child Safety that were used against this child. If you are not already aware, you do want to learn the methods employed to separate children from their bio families. As for Melissa Deagle, she is still facing 144 years in prison for crimes conjured up against her in just the last couple of years. Her whistleblowing abilities earned her special attention, and she was charged with a crime in the efforts to shut her up. Her real crime is she is an extremely skilled and powerful leader against the child trafficking cartel disguised as child protection services. Melissa Deagle's efforts have given a name to the procedure of confiscating children from hospitals. It's now referred to as medical kidnapping. Doctors performed life-saving medical procedures and surgeries upon 2 of her children when they were very young and suffering from congenital defects. Melissa is charged with performing those surgeries. She and her children's father had merely consented to medical procedures and had trusted the recommendations doctors had said were needed. Only Melissa is being charged for attempted murder. The mitochondrial birth defects of both girls are extremely rare, making them valuable lab rats. The doctor who stole them intends to increase his fame in this particular area of medical research. Perhaps he will become far more famous than he ever thought possible, but in another way. Stolen children grow up. The story here is when stolen children of activists grow up, they become even more powerful activists. Please follow the upcoming trial of Melissa Deagle under the Facebook profile of Terry Goodwin, TerriGoodwin. There are many twists and turns in this since Melissa was nearly murdered in a Florida jail when they refused to give her necessary heart medication. Then, after CPR brought her back to life, she was then extradited to Arizona, where they had a crack at her to try to take her out. One more time. Friends raised up money for the $100,000 bail and saved her life, but her health has been severely compromised from the experience. Arizona has been so desperate to take her out that she has been made to undergo 6 psychological testings to try to make this brilliant lady declared incompetent. 5 reports declared her to be competent. Eventually, one well-paid state's witness bravely declared her insane. Immediately after, she received a sudden demand to appear in court, at which time she was instantly ferreted out the back door and incarcerated with orders signed by the judge to be force medicated until she had a change of heart regarding defending herself in court. God bless the USA, right? Again, friends using a good attorney got her out of that, stopped the forced medication, and Melissa then submitted to one more psychological exam. She remains both sane and free. Few of us could do the same. But Melissa preaches faith in Jesus. So do I. DCS in Arizona is a for-profit agency with a Dun & Bradstreet number. 99.98% of children taken from a Maricopa County home are never returned to the bio parents. Once a child enters the system, they have an 85% chance of being placed on medications that add additional profits to the player's pockets. 91% of children removed, per federal statistics, show that the parents were never accused of physical or sexual abuse. Children in state's care are 4 times more likely to die than if they were left in their original home. CPS has become a human trafficking ring that combined grosses $500 billion a year. My next story came first to me from Shannon Michelle Henderson, hashtag Grace5302012. And it reminds me of what we're all dealing with lately. Have you been censored on social media lately? Find it extremely annoying? This might shed some light on just who sets those community standards. Head of Global Community Development at Meta, or Facebook, Jaron Miles of Palm Springs, California, was caught in the act of grooming a 13-year-old boy in propositioning him while on a business trip in Columbus, Ohio. PCI, Predator Catchers Indianapolis, posted his full interview. And as you might imagine, that story is getting out. He was immediately fired, proving that living people actually do work at Facebook. The things he was saying to the boy in this published interview were salacious and shocking. I won't be sharing the details, but this story is getting out in other media. Now, if only our censored and innocent comments to one another could as well. Just a tip in case you don't already know. Go to your settings on a regular basis and block any name called fact checker or fact checking. It's a part of social media house cleaning daily chores. In this next one, found by Catherine Wang Anderson, posts a quote by Richard Wexler, director of the National Coalition for Child Protection Reform. He states, "Predators go where the prey is." And another quote by Chief Counsel Robert David Steele from International Tribunal for Natural Justice. By virtue of being in daily contact with the most vulnerable members of society, our children, many of the mandated organizations have, over time, attracted numerous pedo-predators to their ranks and have been compromised by their lack of proper vetting processes, as well as also turning a deliberate blind eye to the transgressions of staff. She shares from freethoughtproject.com a story from Matt Agarist, February 21, 2022, in Beaver Creek, Ohio. A highly decorated DARE cop admitted this week to running enormous child porn ring that abused toddlers. Kevin A. Kovacs, 60, first arrested April 2019 for unspeakable acts against children, will now enjoy decades in prison for crimes such as videos featuring sexual abuse of children as young as toddler-aged. The U.S. Department of Justice said in a statement, one video depicted a toddler lying on a diaper whose arms and legs were bound by black tape. Kovacs possessed more than 780 images in 5,100 videos of child porn. Less than 2 years before, this cop was arrested for running a child porn ring. Officer Kovacs received the Law Enforcement Officer of the Year award. Top cops continue to be the ones getting caught for these types of crimes. Within the last week, the Free Thought Project reported on another high-ranking cop Peter Bilardello. He was busted for running a similar network. He was indicted on charges of distributing and possessing child pornography, the U.S. office in the Northern District of Georgia said in a news release on Wednesday, February 9, 2022. It stated, for years, 15-year employed Georgia Deputy Sheriff of Cobb County, Peter Bilardello, had the job of tracking and monitoring sex offenders in his jurisdiction. But as it turns out, this provided his cover for hiding heinous crimes for nearly 2 years, while the Georgia Bureau of Investigation sought the MeWe profile of the one who had uploaded horrific child porn and was located somewhere in Marietta, Georgia. Cobb County Police Department finally realized it was one of their own. His position in the sex offenders unit had allowed him to throw investigators off the trail, but a search warrant ended all of it. And he was immediately arrested and resigned his position as a sheriff's deputy. Catherine Wang Anderson shared a post from crimeonline.com, February 8, 2022, entitled, Florida couple keeps adopted 13-year-old locked in garage for 5 years. Now, I'm reading directly from that article by K.C. Wildmoon. A Florida couple has been charged with aggravated child abuse after a runaway child investigation revealed evidence that had been physical abusing their adopted 13-year-old child. They had been. Jupiter police said they were called to a home in the Egret Landing community about a 13-year-old runaway on January 30. Tracy Ferreter, the mother, allowed one detective into the home, and he spotted an unusual 8x8 structure in the garage. Ferreter told the detective it was used as an office and for storage space. The detective noted that there was a doorknob and deadbolt on the structure's door, both locking from the outside. A light switch was located on the outside as well. Inside the structure, the detective found a camera, a mattress, and a bucket. The following day, detectives found the missing runaway at school and interviewed the child. As the ongoing investigation continued and numerous interviews conducted, it was determined the 13-year-old has been physically abused and forcibly confined to live within the garage structure by his adopted parents, Tracy Ferreter and Timothy Ferreter, since at least 2017, police said. The child was allowed to attend school, but was otherwise kept in the garage structure. The Ferreters brought meals to the child, and the bucket was the juvenile's bathroom. The Ferreters were booked into the Palm Beach County Jail, and 3 other children who were living at the home were taken into custody by Child Protective Services. Well, we wonder what their next adoptive home will be like, right? We do know they won't be going to these next foster parents, just sentenced for rape, sexual torture, neglect, starvation, and much more of the children that were placed in their care. This was shared by Catherine Wang Anderson in story taken from Fort Myers News Press, written by Michael Braun on February 3, 2022. Janice and Daniel Spurgeon have fostered over 50 children and adopted some, beginning in 2003 while living in Alabama. They had custody of at least 11 children while living in Florence. Former Cape Coral resident Janice Ray Spurgeon, facing multiple counts of child abuse in Lee County, has pled guilty to similar charges in Alabama. Spurgeon, 58, entered guilty pleas Wednesday to 11 counts of aggravated child abuse, one for each victim. Her plea deal included a 15-year prison sentence with all but 1 year on probation. She also waived her right to a planned February 7 trial in Lauderdale County, Alabama, and all other charges were dropped. She will also serve 36 months of state probation. Daniel Spurgeon, now serving 25 years in an Alabama prison without parole, had been arrested on 2 counts of sexual abuse of a child under 12, 115 counts of first-degree sexual abuse, 122 counts of child abuse, 4 counts of first-degree sodomy, 4 counts of sexual torture, 3 counts of domestic violence by strangulation and or suffocation, 6 counts of first-degree rape, 115 counts of enticing a child for immoral purposes, 6 counts of incest, and 11 counts of human trafficking. Foster parents, adoptive parents, licensed. The Spurgeons' 3 biological children born between 2001 and 2006 were not listed in police reports as among the children abused. Imagine that. They do know the difference, what kids are really theirs. Birmingham attorney Tommy James of Tommy James Law represents the 7 victims in civil lawsuits against the Spurgeons and the Alabama Department of Human Resources officials. The civil suits involving the former Cape Coral couple, the State of Alabama Department of Human Resources, Department of Human Resources Commissioner Nancy Buckner, and various Department of Human Resources caseworkers remain pending. The suits claim the Alabama DHR and its employees received complaints of abuse and neglect, yet failed to take appropriate action and left the victims with their abusers. The lawsuits allege the DHR missed numerous red flags during the years the Spurgeons fostered and adopted the victims and other children. The damage to all of those children is incalculable. I wonder why. When children are fostered and adopted, the state has liability. But they have the best attorneys. Your tax dollars are protected. The children, not so much. Shannon Michelle Henderson brings another humdinger of a foster adopt nightmare, sharing a report from lawandcrime.com. Colin Kalmbacher, February 3rd, 2022. I'm reading directly. A North Carolina husband and wife have been arrested and charged with child abuse that allegedly left an 11-year-old boy in need of severe medical attention for a series of horrifying issues and ailments. Reed Carricker, 42, and Georgiana Carricker, 42, are the adoptive parents of the victim, according to a press release issued by the Salisbury Police Department. They stand accused of 1 count each of felony child abuse after an original inquiry into child neglect. The victim was originally placed with the Carrickers as a foster child in 2013. Police say their investigation began after the non-responsive child was brought to Novant Health Rowan Medical Center in Salisbury, North Carolina, by the male defendant on January 21, 2022, at around noon. The child showed possible signs of neglect and was transported to Presbyterian Hospital for further treatment, the SPD press release says. The Salisbury Police Department's Criminal Investigation Division was notified and initiated an investigation. After reviewing the medical information and facts obtained during the investigation, arrest warrants were obtained. These alleged signs of neglect included a diagnosis of an infectious condition that could have ended the boy's life. There were also multiple open sores visible on various parts of the boy's body. According to a probable cause affidavit obtained by local CBS affiliate WBTV, the boy reportedly suffered sepsis, hypothermia, and multiple open wounds throughout various stages of healing. Sepsis is an extreme response by the body's immune system to an infection. The condition results in a chain reaction of systemic internal organ dysfunction that causes damage to the body's tissues. An arrest warrant in the case also includes photographs of the boy's various wounds and maladies and says the boy had an unknown mass in his stomach that required surgery to remove. Police allege the child had not been seen by medical professionals since October 2020 and further elaborated that the boy had not been seen again by a medical professional until admitted to Novant Health Rowan Medical Center on the day the investigation began. Reed Carricker, according to a court document, had attempted to fill a medication refill for the child in April 2021, but was turned down by staff at Novant Health Lakeside Primary Care in Concord, North Carolina, because the boy had not been seen by medical staff at the practice. The couple, arrested on January 27, are currently free after receiving $40,000 bond from a local judge. According to WBTV, Georgiana Carricker is listed as, are you ready for this? A school counselor at China Grove Elementary School in the town of the same name. Rowan Salisbury School System district leaders, however, have since placed her on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. Wow. School counselor. They use that kid for a punching bag. Shannon Michelle Henderson found this story reported on rollingout.com by Terry Shropshire, February 7, 2022. It reads, an Atlanta area sheriff's deputy has been arrested and indicted on a series of major sex crimes that include trafficking in minors and rape. Derek Gardner, who was an officer with the police department in DeKalb County, an eastern suburb of Atlanta, has been charged with trafficking of persons for sexual servitude, rape, child molestation, cruelty to children, enticing a child for indecent purposes, and aggravated sexual battery, reports the Associated Press. Gardner was arrested on Sunday, February 6, 2022, and placed into the same DeKalb jail where he has served as a jailer. Gardner was almost immediately relieved of duty after nearly 4 years with the department. He's being held without bond, and there's no word on if he has secured legal counsel as of Monday afternoon. Gardner's employment has been terminated, Sheriff Melody Maddox said in an email statement. No other details of the alleged heinous crimes were disclosed. Shannon Henderson shared this from Odyssey, AUDACY.com, KYW News Radio. Mike Dougherty on February 19, 2022, reports in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, a former school principal was arrested for sexually assaulting a student. Jonathan Wisniewski, 43, was principal at Primos Elementary in 2018 when accusations first surfaced. Charges weren't filed, but he was forced to leave the district. He was most recently employed by the Devereux Cares School in Downingtown. A student has come forward and criminal charges were filed. There are potentially more victims, and police are now asking for families of children to come forward who might have had contact while he was principal at this school. Any contact that was inappropriate. And this is an ongoing investigation. Well, have you wondered if CPS cares as much about the kids in state's care as they say they do when they permanently remove them from family for the best interest of the children? Listen to this one, found by Catherine Wang Anderson and shared from lawandcrime.com by Colin Combacker, February 12, 2022. Ronald Gene Graham, Jr., a Missouri man and reported long-time foster parent, was recently charged in connection with the molestation of 3 children in his care. Over the course of several decades, the man in question has fostered some 42 children for the Show Me State's foster care program, according to local television news reports. Those reports say he is also state certified and licensed to be a foster parent. Ronald Gene Graham Jr. of Ellsbury, Missouri, now stands accused of 10 felony counts that include statutory rape, statutory sodomy, and child molestation, according to court records in a case filed February 9th. The alleged incidents bear dates in 1995, 2010, 2015, 2018, and 2021, according to the docket entries attached to the various charges that were reviewed by Law and Crime. The victims in the case are alleged to have been as young as 12 years of age, and the defendant has reportedly been investigated over alleged abuse on numerous occasions in the past, according to St. Louis Fox affiliate KTVI. The television station reported that the Lincoln County resident currently has 3 children living in his home. His wife is said to have reportedly been completely unaware of any alleged abuse, and multiple incidents allegedly occurred during times when the defendant's spouse was traveling out of town. Children's Division, listen to this, Children's Division has previously found proof by preponderance of evidence that the suspect has sexually abused a minor child in his home, according to a criminal complaint obtained by the TV station. Local media in the area have questioned how the state routinely placed more children with Graham despite a record of previous investigations. But reporters have been met with largely formulaic responses about the legal duties imposed upon the various authorities by state law. My words are, in essence, state's liability might be a factor in this, not to mention the loss of Title IVe federal funding for the now enslaved children orphaned by state procurement. Hopefully this is a little good news I found. Imprintnews.org reports on a new law in Texas, which became effective September of last year, 2021. Sarah Tiano writes, a new state law effective this month scales back the influence of doctors working for the Forensic Assessment Center Network, which has provided consultation to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services since 2006. Network doctors receive as much as 60% of their salaries from the Child Welfare Agency, consulting on abuse and neglect cases and providing expert testimony in court when children are taken from their homes into foster care. As of September 1st, parents accused of child abuse, based on these forensic specialists, their review of their cases, will be able to obtain a second medical opinion, regardless of ability to pay, and to present a conflicting opinion to a judge in family court. This is a type of case where the state controls the only expert, said State Rep. Jean Wu, Democrat, creating inherent unfairness for parents fighting to keep custody of their children. If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, Wu added. If your job is to find child abuse, you're going to find child abuse, whether there's really abuse there or not. Horrific examples are given on the original published article, but I want to focus on the good news aspect of this. So, continuing, Senate Bill 1578, authored by State Senator Lois Kolkhorst, Republican, requires the Child Welfare Department to refer the child for a second medical opinion from a specialist who is not involved in the original medical report of abuse or neglect. Anytime parents, social workers, or treating physicians make such a request. The new law was prompted by a 2019 NBC investigation that revealed several cases of children were wrongfully removed from safe homes. I believe it's over 40 some. And needlessly placed into foster care on the sole recommendation of child abuse pediatricians. And more examples are given of stolen children from loving parents. But let's just think about this. They had to pass a law for you to be able to go to a second doctor for another opinion for the child you thought was yours. And this is just in Texas. So, if you're in another state and your child gets injured, it really matters what medical professional you go to. Choose wisely. Adding to that last story is another which kind of had a happy ending. This article, published in the Houston Chronicle on February 4th, 2022, by Edward McKinley, was shared by Catherine Wang Anderson, and tells of a family who couldn't benefit from the new just passed law. They were able to get their family back after 7 months and $300,000. Basically, they could afford to buy their children's return. Gabe and Zahaba Eatery. It was July 3rd, 2021, and the Eateries, both 32, had taken their 3-month-old son Mickey to the hospital that evening after he grew unresponsive following a family trip to synagogue. It was the Sabbath, a family day, and the couple and their 3 children had spent it together. The baby had rarely left Zahaba's arms. Child Protective Services got involved, and a social worker directed Gabe to bring their family's other 2 children in. A pediatric abuse specialist went on to classify Mickey's injuries as potentially stemming from abuse, and all 3 children were taken from the eateries and placed in the foster care system, proving that they did not cause Mickey's injury to the satisfaction of Child Protective Services, and an appointed guardian ad litem took 7 months. Their twin boys have now spent more of their lives outside their parents' home than in it. The family took their case to social media, raised about $272,000 from more than 3,000 donors around the country. But the costs were higher, more than $300,000 for lawyers, doctors, psychologists, and other expenses. The eateries hired 4 pediatric neurology experts to examine the medical evidence. The doctors concluded that Mickey, a twin born prematurely, had slight head trauma from delivery that caused a fluid buildup inside his skull that ultimately caused the brain bleed. Giving parents and their lawyers the right to request a second opinion is a significant step forward, parent advocates say of the recent Texas law, but it doesn't solve all the problems that come from a misdiagnosis. Once the system is involved, it's pretty much 9 months before you might get your children back. The next trip to the ER could prove more serious than the medical reasons that brought you there in the first place. Choose your doctor wisely. And now, back to Maricopa, Arizona. This relates to who removes your children. In this case, it is the county attorney herself, Alistair Adele. KTAR News reports on February 10th that in Phoenix, a senior member for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, Communications Director Jennifer Luer, submitted her letter of resignation effective March 2nd. There has been a mutual loss of trust and confidence in our professional interactions over the past several months, the letter read. An Arizona Republic report last week said Adele's staff was concerned with her absences from work and that one leadership team member reported to Maricopa County Board of Supervisors Chairman Bill Gates that her speech was slurred during a phone call in November. Adele had checked out of an out-of-state rehab facility for anxiety, alcohol abuse, and an eating disorder in September. Lewis summed it up perfectly when she added that she believes the best use of the communications team is to talk about the work of the office and not in defending the county attorney. Let me add that when everyone around you is beginning to bail, it could be a sign you needed to stay in rehab a little longer and maybe stop taking people's children away for Title IVe dollars. Diane Sayre with Facebook group Americans for Legal Reform original page shared abigailschreier.substack.com article, Shared Custody Gender Gauntlet. This is a frightening story of a judge who removed all visitation and parental rights from Ted Hudako's teenage son in a custody hearing after she trapped him with several trick questions regarding the father's beliefs. The software engineer felt it was a trap, but still did not realize the extent the judge would go. Judge Hiramoto never disclosed to the parties that she is a mother to a transgender child whose transition she publicly supported on social media. But even had she recused herself, it might not have changed the outcome. Gender activists now regularly provide training to family court judges in many states, touting the purported benefits of gender medicine for kids, with little discussion of the risks or the existence of prominent critics within the medical community. It's one-sided. I'm continuing to read from the New York Post article, also by Abigail Schreier. In another family court case in Arizona, judges stripped parents of custody of their troubled 15-year-old daughter when they refused to agree that she was a boy. The judicial training sessions that the judge received through the court system included 5 talks by activists over 2 years. They did not involve hearing from detransitioners. These are young people who regret their hasty medical transitions, nor from any of the parents who have watched their teens' lives made worse by a sudden gender swap, nor from a single doctor who is skeptical of quick adolescent medical transition. Ted Hudako's custody battle provides a case study of how gender ideology has infiltrated family law. Judges now decide the fate of children and their families based on unsubstantiated metaphysics, as if it were factual that every adolescent has an immutable gender identity knowable only to the teen himself. In October 2021, a $209,820 charge appeared on Ted's insurance statement. When he wrote to Christine, his ex-wife, she confirmed that months earlier, a puberty-blocking implant had been inserted in Drew's arm, and that Drew had begun a course of cross-sex hormones. The combination would likely soon sterilize Drew, if it hadn't already. No one had obtained Ted's permission. My next story is about a father who fought for his 8-year-old son not to be castrated, eventually losing all visitation in court, much the same as the last story. This battle has, however, inspired him to run for office and protect all young boys from forced sterilization. The EpochTimes.com by Juliet Fairley reported on February 3, 2022, Texas House candidate vows to outlaw child sex change surgery. Quote, "It should absolutely not be allowed to transition children in the state of Texas," Younger said. "That needs to be illegal." I'm continuing to read parts from this article. Gender reassignment surgeries can include orchiectomies, hysterectomies, vaginoplasty, phalloplasty, and mastectomies. Younger is campaigning to be elected to the Texas House of Representatives to represent District 63 for Flower Mound, Louisville, and portions of Denton County. The state has determined that it owns your child, and the state is going to do with the children whatever they want. And that's why I'm running for office in House District 63, he said. This is Jeff Younger. Part of my platform is to change how we deal with family law and to make significant changes to family law so that it's very clear that parents are in control of their children's lives, even in divorce. Children don't become wards of the state just because one parent wants a divorce. If elected, Younger, who would replace Tan Parker, said his priority will be introducing legislation that outlaws gender-altering surgery for children, which Texas State Senator Bob Hall proposed last year in the form of Senate Bill 1311. Establishment Republicans had big problems with criminal penalties for sexually mutilating kids, he said. Hall said he tried very hard in 2021 to get his proposed bill approved. "I had the bill," Hall told the Epoch Times. "I carried the bill to stop the mutilation of kids under 18 years old. This is not a discrimination thing. This is protecting children because we know this gender dysphoria is something that does happen to kids. They get confused. God doesn't make us all complete when we're born. It's something that happens over time with mental and organ development. It's called puberty. Gender dysphoria, according to the American Psychiatric Association, is a condition of distress created by an individual who identifies with the opposite biological sex. As previously reported in the Epoch Times, separate studies found 88% of boys and girls experiencing gender dysphoria who had not yet undergone social transitioning reported when they were teens that it was no longer an issue and they accepted their biological gender. When reached on her cell phone, Dr. Georgoulis, his ex-wife, declined to comment. People don't know that the family courts operate with no oversight from the higher courts, Younger said. You cannot appeal interlocutory judgments in the court. So when a judge does this, like the judge took my kids away from me, you can't appeal. I should also mention there's no due process rights in these courts. There's no oversight by a higher court to double check these judges, and that needs to change. We need to be able to appeal interlocutory judgments that affect children in family court. An August 3, 2021 court order shows that while Georgoulis was granted most parental rights, neither parent may treat the child with hormonal suppression therapy, puberty blockers, or transgender reassignment surgery without both parents' consent or court order. But Younger claims that despite the order, Georgoulis is skirting the edge of legality. She covers James after his evening showers with transgender lotion that add estrogens to his body, Younger alleges. She feeds him high estrogen foods. She dresses him in girls' clothes. He goes to school as a girl. He uses the girls' restroom. Georgoulis and the school faculty teach James that he really is a girl. He is one court order away from chemical castration. Younger blames Dallas County Judge Mary Brown in 301st District Court. She, Brown, took my children away from me last summer precisely because I'm talking about this publicly, Younger added. He did have a gag order on him, but he fought for his boys. There's a lot in social media on this story. She said, because I'm telling people what they're doing to my son, that I can't see my children anymore. She's allowed my son to be socially transitioned. They call him by a fake girl's name. Amanda Dukes reports on WESH-TV Channel 2 that Sanford police arrested foster parent Justin Johnson, charging him with child pornography and video voyeurism. I'm reading from the transcript saying, investigators uncovered thousands of videos recorded by a Central Florida foster parent depicting pornographic images and the sexual abuse of young children from infants up to age 18. Justin Dwayne Johnson, Sr., 47, is being held at the Seminole County Jail on several charges of sex offense video voyeurism, as well as multiple charges of possessing child pornography. Thursday, Sanford police said Johnson has been a foster parent of 20 different kids since 2019. Detectives believe some of those children may be the victims in the videos. 5 foster kids who were living in Johnson's home in late January, when the investigation started, were removed by Child Protective Services. Police say Johnson had hidden cameras in every room in his house, including the bathroom. According to authorities, the graphic videos uncovered date back to 2011. The police chief believes their investigation has only scratched the surface. After viewing and reviewing thousands and thousands of videos, it angers me to think that there is no place in hell that would accept this individual for the stuff he has done to children. Innocent, unable to protect themselves and defend themselves, said Sanford Police Chief Cecil Smith. Police are asking anyone who had contact with Johnson or who entered his home in the past decade to come forward, as they too may be victims of video voyeurism. Investigators say this all came to light after a child discovered a hidden camera in one of the rooms in his home. They say there's also evidence Johnson acted a peeping Tom, shooting up the skirts of unsuspecting women. Investigators say there were 2 other adults living in the house with Johnson. It is not known if they may face charges. Have you heard about Hawaii's missing children? Catherine Wang Anderson shared NewRepublic.com article by Francis Nguyen, January 31st, about the continuing disappearance of young girls on the island. In September, 6-year-old Ariel Sellers went missing from her adoptive parents' home on the eastern side of Oahu. The girl's adoptive parents were arrested and charged with her murder 2 months after she was reported missing. Another high-profile Hawaii missing child case, that of 18-month-old Katana Ancog, in February, was controversial because HPD's missing persons detail delayed its investigation into the toddler's disappearance for 2 days and failed to alert other state and federal partners, including the FBI. Detective Maile Rigo stated an officer is supposed to conduct an initial investigation into whether there is foul play or risk of harm to the youth. After that, they are to perform appropriate checks to attempt to locate them. But in her experience, she stated, it is a true rarity for an HPD officer to actively look for a runaway. Even when a case is handled as a missing person, there are 2 detectives who act as the first responders on the island for missing persons cases, and they are responsible for anywhere between 50 to 70 cases a month. As Reed Tagamori, one of those detectives, told a local news channel in 2019. As of 2019, Hawaii, a state whose population, 1.4 million, is comparable to that of San Diego, California, had the 8th highest rate of missing persons per capita in the nation. Amanda Leonard, branch chief of the Missing Child Center in Hawaii, a state clearinghouse that assists law enforcement and affected families, has said that about 2,000 children across Hawaii are reported missing each year, although very few of them are as young as Ariel or Katana. There are several things that are known about Hawaii's missing children. Most of them are girls, ages 15 and 16 on average, and most of them have been through the foster care system, per Leonard. And the majority of them aren't even considered missing. In the eyes of law enforcement, they're classified as runaways, which affords them fewer resources and attention than high-profile cases like Ariel's receive. Law enforcement may also disagree with who's considered missing in the first place. Leonard from Missing Child Center Hawaii, or MCCH, is one of 2 staff in her department assisting law enforcement with missing children's cases across the entire state. She told me that 2021 was the busiest year she's seen since she started working there 3 years ago. The majority of her caseload is on Oahu and involves endangered runaways, most of them youth from foster care. Once again, foster children are not people. They are state ATM machines. Modern slavery. Cash for state and county general budgets where only 6% of the federal dollars must go to the child's actual care. Perhaps you weren't aware. Many of these stories are hard to listen to, and if you're a parent who's had your child stolen, it will be even worse. The trauma that the entire family experiences is referred to as the civil death penalty, and there never was even an actual court of record or judicial trial, but everybody loses. This next story I want to preface with an idea you might not have ever heard, but it is one to consider while you are trying not to drink the poison you want your enemy to die from. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 24:17 not to rejoice and gloat when our enemy falls, not to let our heart be glad when he stumbles. Why? It goes on to say, or the Lord will see your gloating and be displeased and turn his anger away from our enemy. azfamily.com, Amy Cutler, on February 5, 2022, reported that Maricopa County Judge Rosa Moroz was hospitalized after being hit by a red light runner in Phoenix. The Phoenix Police Department says officers responded to 56th Street and Camelback Road around 9:15 a.m. and learned that Moroz was crossing the street when she was hit by a black car. She was taken in extremely critical condition on that day. She died the following Saturday from her injuries. Moroz served as a Superior Court judge for the Criminal Department for Maricopa County. According to the Judicial Branch of Arizona in Maricopa County, she joined Superior Court in 2004 and had worked several assignments from family, probate, civil, and criminal courts. Many glowing tributes were posted to her life in the article, but there are also other viewpoints. Shannon Michelle Henderson posted on her profile at the time of the accident, I have been a court watcher in her court as she fraudulently severed parental rights based on falsified CPS legal liars' testimony. My thoughts on this is God is our avenger. This judge is now facing the real judge. Back on earth, many mothers' tears are still falling, along with those of their lost children. Lawandcrime.com, Jerry Lamb, reports state seeks death penalty for parents accused of especially heinous murder of adopted daughter found skeletonized in burned attic, reported January 28, 2022. Catherine Wang Anderson asked, how about the CPS and judges who approve these adoptions? They are the ringleaders and profit greatly from this child trafficking. Why do they always get away with murder, literally? They claim to be able to predict future harm, called predictive neglect, when they remove children and terminate parental right. So why did they sell these children to these two monsters? Quite a while ago, Dave Jose went on scene when this story first came out and interviewed the mother of the murdered girl, and this child never needed to be taken. There were family members, relatives that could have had this child. Maribel, Laura, and Raphael Laura killed their 11-year-old adopted daughter, hiding her body in the attic of their home for several years, and then setting the house on fire. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office this week formally filed notices of intent to seek the death penalty against Maribel Laura and Raphael Laura, both of whom are facing a slew of felony charges in connection with the death of Anna Laura. As previously reported by Law and Crime, the Lauras in January 2020 were both arrested and later charged with first-degree murder, child abuse, conspiracy to commit child abuse, concealment of a body, and arson of an occupied structure. If convicted on the first-degree murder charges, prosecutors said they plan to present evidence of aggravating factors at the sentencing phase of the trial, showing that the Lauras' conduct was especially heinous, cruel, or depraved, and justify putting the adoptive parents to death. If not yet admitted into evidence, the state will offer additional evidence from guilt phase witnesses relevant to the aggravating factors, including the cruelty suffered by the victim, prosecutors wrote in the filing. For example, the state will be calling a medical examiner and forensic anthropologist to discuss cruelty elements. The cruelty elements of Arizona law require prosecutors to include the mental, emotional, and physical suffering of the victim. The heinous and depraved elements of the law look at factors such as the helplessness of the victim, the senselessness of the crime, and violations of a special caretaker relationship, among other things. Officers with the Phoenix Police Department and firefighters with the Phoenix Fire Department on January 28, 2020, responded to a 911 call reporting a fire at the Laura's home. The call came in only an hour after the Department of Child Safety removed 3 children from the home due to allegations of severe abuse. After firefighters were able to subdue the blaze, authorities entered the home and found Anna's skeletal remains stuffed in the attic. Under questioning from investigators, Raphael allegedly admitted to siphoning gasoline from his car, which he then used to set the house on fire. Citing court records, Phoenix NBC affiliate KPNX reported that Raphael also confessed that he wrapped Anna's dead body in a blanket and stashed it in the attic of the home. Okay, so they caught some. Then, kids are killed and stuffed and buried and missing and disappear every day from foster adopt homes. Raphael and Maribel are currently scheduled to be tried on March 1, 2022, tomorrow. The little girl was last seen alive 2016. I would like to add that for the month of February, I had twice as many stories. I had to pick and choose from many that I could have shared. I would also like to end this with what's happening every day. Children are leaving the homes of parents who love them, and they're being severely traumatized. There's not a fix for what happens when this is done to them. I'm going to leave you with one. The mother had to give up one child in order to keep the younger one. The trauma is just beginning. Her story is one of so many, and it's in all 50 states. When I say no child is safe, no child is safe. And we will change that.
Smile. Can you smile? Why? Is it hard to think about happy thoughts? Can you smile one little smile? Oh my goodness. Those minutes went fast.